He's a good man. He is not a racist. I can tell you that. He's a good person.
Yeah, he likes me, even though I'm not a racist, and I've never been thrown out of a shopping mall. Thanks a lot, Donnie. You're the best.
Oh, I can't wait to the big day. It's going to be fabulous. She's like a princess. It's so wonderful. And,
ugh, I'm sick of them already. Hands up who's sick of them already. Just me. I don't know. It seems to me as though we are trying to whip ourselves up into some sort of glancing interest in the ever-expanding soap opera that is The Royals. It seems like it's jumped the shark. No, that's inaccurate. It hasn't jumped the shark, because that implies that it has got absolutely preposterous. That's after the Fonz. That was terrible. Well, I haven't seen it in a long time. You know the Fonz. He jumped the shark in one of the episodes of Happy Days. Hence, that is what is now referred to when a television program just puts 1 foot over the silly line. It has jumped the shark. But the royal family hasn't jumped the shark. They just got boring. I mean, come on. What year is it? 2015. We should be over them by now. On this radio station, I can't believe it, David Davis said he is not very bright. That's not me saying that. David Davis said it. He actually said out loud to Nick Ferrari, "What's the requirement of my job? I don't have to be very clever. I don't have to know that much. I just have to be calm." So that's great. We're having the future of our country decided by a man who is not very clever and doesn't know much, but won't get into a fight if you spill his drink.
Oh, no.
I would think that calm should be the last thing he is. And negotiated with the EU. I think pounding the table and shouting and screaming would be more like it. And for that job, by the way, for which he doesn't have to be clever or know much, he's paid £141,000 of your money. £141,000 to do a job, the requirement of which is not to know much or to be very bright, just to be calm. You know, like overnight security in an office block. This is the same man last March who couldn't even hazard a guess at what crashing out of the EU without a deal would do to Britain. It's his job. And when asked what crashing out of the EU without a deal would do to Britain, he said, I don't know. What are you asking me? We're all in big trouble.
Warning, warning.
Yeah. Since then, of course, though, he has had many papers made, drawn up, that showed how each scenario will impact the country. Just kidding, there are no such papers. No one's even looked into it. But that's okay, because he's still calm.
Oh, fabulous.
I bet the captain of the Titanic was calm. Right up to the point where it smashed into the world's biggest special effect, which eventually led to Kate Winslet not sharing a floating door with Leonardo DiCaprio. Thanks a lot, Kate. Selfish. Anyway, David Davis is either the Garfield the Cat of international statesmen, or he's Al Capone. The EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, said that David Davis was behaving like a gangster.
Absolutely.
That was after that painstaking fudge about Northern Ireland. Does anybody understand what was actually agreed about Northern Ireland?
No.
No. Well, the EU thinks they know, and David Davis thinks that nothing was agreed. This painstaking fudge that the two sides cobbled together about the Irish border, undermined by David Davis, saying that it wasn't really a deal. It was a statement of intent and not legally enforceable. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he's not very good at this. Seriously, you agree a deal, you shake hands, you walk out to the assembled media and say that we've got a deal. And the paper's right that we've got a deal, and the Prime Minister says that we've got a deal, and the chief deal maker says, well, it's not so much a deal, it's an intention. And anyway, they can't hold us to it. They must absolutely flat out hate us in the EU. I bet they can't wait to see us go. So what other non-bright things did Captain Calm do this week? Well, there was the perfectly reasonable and... hang on, I'm going to cough. There's a realistic possibility put forward by the EU's Michel Barnier that a trade deal won't be done by the time we leave in March of 2019. He said it was possible, but vanishingly unlikely. You know, like it would be possible, perhaps, to build a stairway to heaven. But it's unlikely. But it's possible. You can't prove that you can't do it. It is possible. But that's what the EU's Michel Barnier... I wonder if I'll ever get tired of saying that. He said a trade deal won't be done by the time we leave in March of 2019. Well, of course it won't. I don't know what they talk about in these things. What wine to have with lunch, I expect. That sort of thing. But it just takes forever. The Canada deal took 7 years and didn't even include banking. 7 years. What do they talk about? But anyway, that's about the rate at which trade agreements are agreed. And March 2019, that's like 15 months away. Oh, I better got that right. 15 months away. No chance. So there's going to be an intervening period, during which time we will still be in the EU. Even though we won't be in the EU, we'll still have to obey by all the laws of the EU, and the people will still be coming over here and doing the jobs that we don't want to do, for which we should be extremely grateful, by the way, instead of grumpy, to put it mildly. And we won't notice the difference. And it could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be forever. I'll say it again. When we're out of the EU, you won't notice the difference, other than you'll be a little bit poorer. I mean, I said it over and over and over again. Trade deals take a huge amount of time, and no one really expects it to be anything less than ages, except for David Davis, who said that we could do a trade deal with the EU, and this is a quote, in 1 minute. Yeah, that's what he said. Not very bright. Or clever, rather, to be more accurate. Not very clever, and he doesn't know much. That's what he said. Or to be more, even more accurate, he didn't say that he wasn't very clever. He said that to do this job, you don't have to be very clever, and you don't have to know that much. And he seems to be intent on proving that fact over and over and over again. We believe you, David. In 1 minute, we could do a trade deal with the EU. You can't boil an egg in a minute. What kind of an agreement on £240 billion worth of business can you make in less time than it takes to write out the number 240 billion? I agree with David Davis. You don't have to be very bright to do the job that he is doing. And this was a week that I've actually got a tan from the nuclear energy coming off the news racks this week. It was like a little Fukushima nuclear meltdown from certain newspapers this week. This was the week that the Daily Mail appeared to completely lose its mind. Correct me if I've got this wrong, but the whole point of the referendum on being a member of the EU was to return power to Parliament. Is that correct?
Affirmative.
That and the being surrounded by fewer foreigners thing, but we pretend that that's not what it was about. It was. That's exactly what it was about, but we pretend that it wasn't about that. We pretend that it was about returning sovereignty to our elected representatives. You know, as though they actually run the country at all. They don't run the country. Google run the country. BP run the country. And Goldman Sachs run the country. Ask yourself, when was the last time you could just rock up to Downing Street and go and have a chit-chat with Mrs M? Rupert Murdoch can do it whenever he has the inclination. But that's what it was supposed to be about, returning sovereignty to our elected representatives. And the moment that power was actually returned to Parliament, the Daily Mail had a hissy fit that you could see from the International Space Station. They went berserk. Aliens on that cigar-shaped, rock-like spaceship could see the fit that the Daily Mail had this week. The sonic boom of fury knocked their engines out. Spinning through space it is. This is the same paper that labelled judges as enemies of the people and MPs as saboteurs who must be crushed. That's what they said. And the Daily Mail screamed from its front page that MPs who voted to give Parliament a vote on the way this country should go were called self-consumed malcontents and betrayers. And they printed their pictures on the front page so that anyone who voted for the return of primacy of Parliament, that doesn't actually want the primacy of Parliament, can take whatever action they see fit. After they finished screaming. I don't get it. I actually really don't get it. Do we want a parliament where all of our MPs just do whatever they're told? Which sounds like North Korea. Or do we elect our MPs based on more than just the party they represent? Because we don't elect our Prime Minister, we elect the party of our choice. I mean, what's the point of having MPs if they're all going to just vote the way they're told? I thought that that's what the idea was. In a parliamentary democracy, that you vote for MPs and they go and vote on what they think, hopefully, what they think is your best interests, based on the information and knowledge that they have at their disposal, rather than they pick up the phone and are told what to say and then they just go and say it. That's not a parliament of individual thinking people. That's a parliament of robots.
Correct.
I mean, if we actually want to be run that way, let's just skip the middleman and save all the money of MPs. We don't need however many, there are 650 of them. We just need one, a dictator. That's apparently what we want. When MPs voted to bring back power to Parliament, to have some say in the way that this country is going, the people who voted to give back power to Parliament went mad. Am I missing something? Completely coincidentally, of course, at least two of those MPs that had their picture printed on the front page of the Daily Mail and who were called self-consumed malcontents and all of the rest of it, had death threats. Complete coincidence, of course. What were they called? Antoinette Sandbach was one of them. Antoinette Sandbach got a message that says, "You'll get what's coming to you." Which could be the advertising slogan of a pizza delivery company, or it might be the headline in the Daily Mail when the government gets defeated next time, which will probably be next week, when they try to ink the date in the diary for the day of our leaving, unless an amendment that was just posted is defeated or thrown out, which says that the date of our leaving is going to be another fudge. We don't really know, which is the only sensible thing to do. We don't know what is going to happen on the 29th of March next year, 2019. So it seems a bit nuts to say that at that moment, 11 o'clock at night, whenever it is, then we're leaving regardless of what the deal is. It's like I said, I mean, I don't know anything about anything, but the lack of intelligence that is being applied to this issue is alarming even me. The government wants to enshrine the date of our leaving into law. We will go on a specific date at a specific hour, no matter what the state of play, and regardless of the consequences. Does that sound smart to you?
No.
Me either. That's about as stupid as saying we're going to march off the pavement at a certain time, regardless of what is coming down the road. We've decided that at 3:15 and 10 seconds, we will leave the pavement to cross the road. No sense in looking either way. We've made our mind up. Am I hallucinating, or did we elect our MPs to think on our behalf? Or did we elect them to act like robots and do whatever the dear leader of the day said? Because that sounds more like Russia. And that Tory MP who got the death threats for doing her job, Antoinette Sandbach, said, "I will not be bullied or threatened. I am elected to represent the interests of my constituents, and that means doing the right thing from time to time." Can you believe that? Somebody has been elected to do the right thing. and is doing it according to her conscience. But what she is not doing is whatever the shrill snowflakes at the Daily Mail tell her to do, which caused them to go purple berserk this week. And that was the same Daily Mail, by the way, that accused Facebook of ripping society apart and causing attacks on MPs. I wonder if the people who write the Daily Mail actually read the Daily Mail, because they act like they've never seen it. Hello, Milan.
Hello, Nick. It's been a bizarre week, hasn't it?
It's just so strange. It's like bizarre, lumped on. It's almost like the cherry on the cake of 2017, which has been the most bizarre year of my lifetime.
I think there's a lot of panic in the air because I think a lot of Leavers are thinking Article 50, the biggest prize they've won in a long time, is going to be taken away from them and going to be revoked. And so when I think everyone needs to calm down, it's going to happen. I mean, the most moronic thing was to put it in legislation. Like, who cares if put it in legislation? It's going to happen because you've got the 2-year deadline. But the actual discussion is the terms of the relationship going forward. And that's where things get confused, because you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't stay out the single market and have no border with Ireland and have no customs checks. It's either you want control or trade. You can't have both.
And I think there are MPs, the people that actually have some grounding in economics or reality, they know that what we actually want is trade, and if we're going to have free trade, I mean, they're going to have to, well, just for the health of the British economy, we need pretty much the same number of people who are coming in here now to do all the jobs that we don't want to do. Now, the people that did the voting, they want it the other way around. They don't really care about trade because they don't know much about it. They don't have any. Your average Joe, me included, knows nothing about economics. We haven't done the cost-benefit analysis of being inside and outside the EU. We don't have any idea about the £240 billion worth of trade that we do with the EU. People are just thinking about foreigners. I mean, I know we're not supposed to say that that's what the vote was about, but it was. That's what it was about. I mean, people didn't care about returning sovereignty to Parliament. Parliament doesn't run this country. Like I said, HSBC runs this country. The Daily Mail runs this country. I mean, why do you think that so little changes, regardless of which party is in power? The poor remain poor, and the rich get ever more spectacularly rich. Nothing changes. That's because they're not really doing anything. They're just being buffeted about and blown about in the wind like a rudderless boat.
And when an MP voted to ensure that Parliament did have sovereignty,
oh, God.
all the levers, typified by Question Time on Thursday, was just bullying the MP.
Oh, they bit holes in the wall. They were so furious. And I really don't understand it. That's on the surface of it what the vote was about: returning the power to Parliament. But they didn't actually want that. They wanted to return the power to themselves, for Parliament to do whatever it was they said. It's like the half of the country has become a mini dictator.
Yeah, and the conversations I've had, they would say, well, what relationship do you want with the EU? And normally I get met with, well, you know, we'll just walk away from the table.
Yeah, we want nothing to do with them. We're going to, yeah, exactly right. Which is such a staggeringly daft thing to say.
I know.
It does underline to me that we should never have been asked this question in the first place, because we're not bright enough, and I include myself in this, we're not bright enough to understand the ramifications of any decision. We haven't thought about it for a single second. We read the side of a blooming bus and took the word of some oily chancellors back with Russian money, and we made the wrong decision, and now we're going to be the government of the day, whoever it might be. Might not be you, Mrs. M. You might pick the short straw and get shown the door. I would expect it any moment now. But they're going to be concentrating on this and little else for years.
And if we leave, walking away, then what happens to the radioactive materials we use in hospitals? What happens to airline carriers? What happens to passport and finance products?
Well, the radioactive materials, they dispose of them by putting them in the centre of those golf ball suites that they sell to children. You know those, I don't know if they still sell them. They're about the size of a golf ball, and as a child, you could just barely fit it into your mouth. But you would pull it out at, at intervals to see that magically it had changed colour. Do you remember that? Do you remember those? And you would suck it furiously, and it would go through a whole rainbow hue of shades until you got after about 6 or 7 days of intense sucking, you get to the centre bit, which was a tiny little black ball in the centre, and that's nuclear waste. That's how they get rid of it.
Secret. I think we peaked as a human species. You know how another evidence of that we peaked as a human species? If I've been helping out my mum's post office during the Christmas rush, and the amount of questions I get asked, which are just moronic, I think we peaked as us as human species.
I'd like to throw that out as a topic, even though I don't really do the T word. I just sort of ramble and people then join in. But what's the evidence that we have peaked as a species? Just before we go, Milan, because the news is coming up, the best film of the year. Because I want to pick a film to watch on what will be my Christmas Day, which I think will be Thursday, before I start the big long A to Z of 2017 run that will go all the way over the holiday period. So I'm going to have my Christmas Day on next Thursday, and I want to watch the best film of the year, assuming it's available to rent.
Try Annabelle Creation.
What?
Annabelle Creation.
I've never heard of it. Annabelle Creation. Oh no horror films. No. Well, come on, I'm not 15. I don't want to watch a horror film. No offence. I want to watch... I tell you, what I really want to watch is Tom Cruise besting some villains in a Mission Impossible film, but I've seen them all.
It was that one you told me about was really good, where he's a pilot.
Oh yeah, that was good, but I've seen it. I can't remember what it was called now. That was a real... it was a true story about a man who was flying drugs for Mexican cartels and guns for the CIA. Yeah. That was a very good film, but I can't remember what it was called, and I've seen it already. Hey, I'm going to go see Star Wars shortly. That better not suck like the first one back did. That was awful.
And hopefully no one else is in the cinema with you.
Yeah, well, I hate that. So I'll be going at about 11 o'clock in the morning just to make absolutely sure I'm there on my own.
When all the kids are there, yeah.
No, they better not be. They haven't broken up yet, have they? They're still in school. Please tell me they're still in school.
No, some have broken up.
Oh, God. Okay, well, like I said, I'll wait till February when they're all definitely back. All right, thanks a lot, Milan. You've been no help. Cheers, mate. Kieran says, trade deals with the EU traditionally take a long time because they start from a position of no deal and have to spend a long time working out areas of alignment. The UK is in a different position in that it is fully aligned. Therefore, it should be pretty quick to agree what remains as part of the deal and what doesn't. Oh, yeah, sure. 27 countries, all with different priorities, wishes and wants, will all come to instant agreement. Yeah, we could do it in a minute. And then get that agreement past 650 MPs. Yeah, piece of cake. With that we can both have and eat. I think Boris Johnson has been having and eating a little too much cake. Yeah, try a salad once in a while. Here is, and I mean that with kindness, Hammersmith. Hello, Pete.
Oh, hi, it's Pete.
Well, that was just like a shot in the dark from me. Talk about coincidence.
Was it?
Yes, Pete.
There you go, right. Well, it's the bit about you saying we've peaked as the race.
Oh, yes.
I've just had really amusing about 20 minutes.
Pete, can I just stop you for a second? Please speak directly into the phone.
Yes, can you hear it now?
That's better, yes.
Right, I've just had 20 minutes in a forecourt of a petrol station, and all I did was I paid for petrol separately, and then I got 3 meal deals, so 9 items that were scanned through, and the meal deal came to £3 each.
Yeah.
£11.45. So I looked at the woman and I said, there are 3 items there that's £3, 3 items there that are £3, and 3 items there that are £3.
£11.95.
Yes,
that makes sense to me. That's what I make it.
Yeah, £11.45. Now comes the good bit. She, instead of actually zeroing everything, she actually credited. She scanned it across to credit each one off, to then start again.
Yeah, because
£11.45.
bound to get a different result.
And as it was, in the end, to this day, it now gets comical. Because the sandwich that I bought, my wife was sitting in the car, and the smoked salmon and cream cheese sandwich, my wife decided she didn't fancy.
Yeah, okay. Can I just interject?
Warning!
You're going to eat a smoked salmon sandwich that you bought from a garage?
Yeah, I know, it was Disney. That's what she said as well. So I went back and got something like cheese and tomato, but instead of a straight swap, which wouldn't have affected the price at all, I had to go back out to the car and get the drink and the packet of crisps. Right, because that was the only way she could operate.
Yeah.
And she still, to this day, reckons that 3 threes are £11.40.
Well, that's what I make it, yeah.
Yeah, I know. So in the end, I actually have to tell you, I gave in.
Well, I think that's probably the best thing to do. I mean, if your meal selection is from a garage, then maybe you should just skip a meal, Pete. It won't kill you.
I was desperate, and in the end, I did give in.
Right. All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pete. Any fool know that 3 times 3 is not £11.45. It's like £8 Any fool know that. Asgar emails, Mr. Not So Bright But Calm chief Brexit negotiator of ours is looking for help from experts. I'm sorry, I was kidding. These Muppets don't like experts. That's right. Did you not get the memo? Nobody is remotely interested in facts or experts. You know, I've been writing a book about this year. For quite a few years now, I've been writing books throughout the year about, what's gone on. And this year is just absolutely mind-bending, the stuff that's happened. I don't think there's any year in history, but certainly that I've been aware of, and I've been aware of quite a lot, that has come to anything like this. And I've said it quite a few times this year that, these are extraordinary, this is an extraordinary era. And in the future, presuming that there is a future, which is not necessarily something to bank on, because, maybe I'll get into this later. One of Donald Trump's acolytes has said that we're about 70% him going to war, nuclear war with North Korea. It's about 70% probability, but I'll get to that later. What point was I going to make? Oh yeah, futurologists. Historians, of course, not futurologists, but in future, historians are going to look back on this and go, what? And we're living through that. We're living through this right now. Isn't that great?
No.
Let's have Tottenham. Hello, Quest.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
You got me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just before the break, you asked something about what's the best movie of the year?
Yeah. There haven't really been very many. It's not been a great year. I suppose real life has been so amazing that we didn't need to escape to Fantasyland in the cinema. Just looking at the news was entertainment enough.
I'd agree with that. However, if you just want to go with the whole thing that just sort of takes you away, you want to just watch a movie, unplug the brain, just watch it. It is the Kingsman sequel. The Kingsman Secret Service. I don't know if you actually watched the first film.
I did, and much to my surprise, I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh my God, just so much fun. Just fun to watch.
It was very, very good, yeah. And I have, you see, if there's certain names that are, if they're appended to a film, you think, yeah, this is going to be, this will have a certain level of quality. And Tom Cruise is one, regardless of what you might think of his beliefs, which to my mind are no crazier than any other religion's beliefs. But let's not get into that.
At the end of the day, make a good movie. You're an actor. Make a good movie or make a bad movie. Let's just go with that. What you believe, who cares?
And British action films don't have a great reputation, not really. I mean, you could say James Bond, but it's not really a British film. It's American money and American studio, and all the rest of it. So
Sure.
they got British actors, right enough.
That's the beautiful thing about, and for me, sorry to cut you, but that's the beautiful thing about Kingsman. It's just got a host of, well, the first one especially, it's got just a host of, Taron Egerton. I didn't even know who he was.
Who is he? Who?
He actually played Eddie the Eagle. What is it? 2014-15, the Eddie the Eagle movie. He was actually Eddie. I didn't watch it.
And who is he in The Kingsman?
In Kingsman, he's the main character. In the first one,
he's the young lad.
Call him first. Eggsy. He's
Right.
Eggsy.
Okay. Well,
Yeah?
I don't remember people's names unless I meet them every single day. I've got no idea who anybody's names are.
Sure, he's Eggsy. He's the young
Right.
main character.
So,
also,
assuming because it's relatively recent, assuming you can't rent it, if you cannot rent that film, what am I going to watch?
You actually can.
Oh, okay.
You actually can.
Right.
You actually can because I actually watched it. I actually watched it today.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I can't promise anything, Quest,
Yeah, sure.
but I will I will look into it. How does that sound?
Well, like I said, you watch the first one, and the beautiful thing is that the second one brings a whole new twist. It actually brings.
Well, don't tell us.
Oh no, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you a thing. I'm just telling you, it brings a whole new twist to the way the first one ended. It's just like wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first one. This is not a spoiler alert because the first one ended with one of the main characters dying, and I've seen that he didn't actually die because his face is on the poster for the next film. So that wasn't really going to be a surprise. I think they told us that one ahead of time. But anyway, Quest, leave it with me, and I'll investigate further. Thanks a lot. Excellent work. Cheers. So throughout the programme, it's all dependent on you, really, if you want to play along. Evidence that the human race has peaked. And we've had some excellent suggestions already, so keep them coming. Steve texts, Anna Soubry is our MP. When she was voted in, she said she would be Broxtow's voice in Parliament, not Parliament's voice in Broxtow. Well, Broxtow overwhelmingly told her to vote out, but she has defied our instructions at every opportunity. Well, I don't think that's how it works. You don't vote for an MP and then give them instructions on what to think and do and say. You vote for the best person that you think can do the job and represent the best interests of your constituency. And sometimes the people aren't right. I mean, God, if we listened to the will of the people on every little issue of the day, then we'd have hanging back for a start. And the only programmes on television would feature cakes and dancing. In fact, anybody that doesn't bake a cake or dance on television will be hanged if we are interested in the will of the people. I think the will of the people should be ignored at every turn for the benefit of the people. People don't know what they want. People got no idea what they want till you give it to them. Ask people what they want and they'll go, what we used to have. Because we've got no imagination and we don't, and furthermore, we can't be bothered to do the work to find out what any decision we might make, the consequences of which. I know that didn't really work as a sentence, but just to rearrange those words into something that does make sense, because I can't be bothered. Wanstead, hello Sophie.
Hi Nick, how are you?
I'm great, mate.
I've had an exhausting week.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a week. But never mind about that. What's the best film of the year?
The best film of all time?
No.
I don't have...
Well, everybody knows the best film of all time is Koyaanisqatsi. That is the correct answer.
No, my correct answer...
No. This is not a discussion. This is a statement of fact.
We're not in the Stasi state yet, so
okay, then.
I'm going to beg to differ.
Right.
I'm sure it is wonderful, Nick. I will watch out for it.
Yeah.
But my favourite film of all time is The Shawshank Redemption.
Ugh.
Honestly, it's an absolute piece of art.
Yeah.
And it didn't win any Oscars. I think it was...
Yeah, well, with good reason. Mind you, the films that win Oscars are often absolutely dreadful. Chicago won the best Well, exactly. That was my reaction entirely. I coughed up my dinner when I heard that. Chicago was the best film of any given year.
Really?
It was all. I mean, the stage show is great, and it's coming back to London apparently.
I've seen the stage show.
Yeah, it's very, very good, but the film was terrible.
I can't.
What? Where's she gone?
Hello?
Yes, there you are.
I have the soundtrack. I have the
Oh.
soundtrack. I actually like the film. I like the song.
Yeah, there's everything about it is great. It is.
But you mentioned...
The jazz
you
hands and the
mentioned-
bowler hats and the fishnet stockings and all of that stuff.
Talking about shows, I watched our school nativity 4 times this week. And I'm going...
Oh, you're a teacher. You have to. Yeah,
No,
okay.
teaching,
Did you
learning support. No,
Did you take part in any way?
no, I just watched.
Oh, okay.
It was 1.5 hours each time.
Oh my God! 1.5 hours for the school nativity play.
Boring.
How can anybody stand to sit through that?
It was wonderful.
Awful.
Pupils were wonderful.
Excruciating.
It was the nursery and the reception who had starring roles, and all the rest of the school sang the song. And it was really
How can you expect a child to remember all its lines for an hour and a half?
They did. Our children are very special, Nick, in our school, so...
It'll be the teachers, I expect.
Well, they did do a few gestures and mouthed a few words, but
Yeah.
they were really wonderful.
Well,
But you
I'm
mentioned-
doing a gesture right now, just at the thought of sitting through an hour and a half of some school play. There's a gesture for you, Sophie. I always get very nervous when I watch plays because I'm very aware, it is very apparent that it's not real. Whereas oddly and conversely, watching a film, it does seem to be real. Whereas I find it difficult to lose myself in a play because it's just people on stage shouting. Whereas a film is more like real life, which is weird because there's nobody real present.
I'm hoping...
I just keep expecting them to forget their lines. There's a sense of nervousness throughout the entire thing. Although I did see a really, really good thing this week. Glenn Ross with a real life movie star, Christian Slater, who was easily the best thing on the stage, but he was really impressive.
I think he was the actor in another really good film called The
Called the what?
Fighter.
The what?
Based on the truth. The Fighter.
The Fighter. I don't know that.
That's brilliant.
He was
But,
in True Romance, which was really good. Not quite as good as Pulp Fiction, but still up there. He was in Mr. Robot, which was okay, if a little dark.
Pulp Fiction was too violent for me. I wouldn't
Oh,
watch that.
come on. Pulp Fiction, too violent. What was violent about Pulp Fiction? Apart from all the deaths and the tortures. You know, the little light torturing and the deaths and, you know. Apart from all the violence, there was no violence in it. Plus, it was cartoon-like violence. I don't mind if it's cartoon-like violence. It's just the horror part that I can't live in the same room as.
Right.
Oh, that phone that you got there, Sophie, is abysmal. Lean out the window and get to high ground.
Sorry.
But none of this is
Can
why
you
you
hear me
called. Yeah, I can, yeah.
No. Yes, the sweet. You're talking about gobstopper.
What?
The sweet. The sweet.
Have you got a landline over where you live? God, nobody uses a landline anymore. I know it's like ancient technology and the kids aren't into it, but they haven't invented a phone that is a mobile phone that can actually make a phone call yet.
Can you hear me?
Well, you come and you go. I think what you wanted to say was that you were thankful that Judge Roy Moore, that comedy cowboy, who couldn't even... Did you see him trying to ride that horse? That was hilarious. He dresses up like Yosemite Sam. This bloke in America that was running for the Senate seat in Alabama. And he dresses up like the Tom Hanks character from A Toy Story, like a little toy cowboy, and he gets on his horse to go vote, and He wasn't riding that horse. The horse was taking him for a ride. He was just clinging on desperately, trying not to fall off. That was hilarious.
Even the horse is disgusted by him.
Yeah, exactly. Even the horse wanted to get away.
Well, this will inaugur a sea change, and America will finally wake up to the stupor that it's been in for the last year.
I think that America is actually talk about jumping the shark, like I did earlier on. I think America has jumped the shark. I think that that entire country has become ill. I think they've. I don't know. Maybe there's something in the water. Maybe it's something in the food that they eat. Maybe it's the quantity of food that they eat. I don't know, but something has definitely gone to their head. Maybe the frozen ice cream milkshakes have seeped into their brains. What the hell is going on in America? They appear to have completely lost their minds. And they bang on about Jesus wants me to do this and Jesus wants me to do that. And what Jesus apparently wants them to do is to be the least Christian they could possibly be, while maintaining that they're doing it in God's name. What's wrong with those people?
They're intolerant. And, it's the genetically modified food. It's the hormones pumped into their meat. It's the chemicals in the water.
It's the chlorine in their chicken. Yeah.
It's the insanity in the White House. It's all gone belly up.
It's been a hell of a year, and America has been like right out there. It's had a purple patch, like a purple furious clenched fist patch.
Well, I suspect your A to Z of the year, every single letter will be related to Trump.
Possibly, yeah. Yes, that I would be surprised. In fact, you're setting me a target now. Something with every single letter should have some sort of Trump connection. Z may be a problem.
I'm going to get to work on that as we speak.
All right.
And try and find a letter that's associated. Try and find something associated with Trump for every letter.
Every single one. I have a good one for O, but I can't pronounce it. It's that it's that thing that's in space that's hurtling towards us that may or may not be a spacecraft. Did you see that?
No.
Oh.
I've been busy watching the Nativity.
Oh yeah. Well, it's taken up all of your time. An hour and a half that's 6 hours. 6 hours. How could you stand it?
And the other thing is, we had Christmas dinner at school today, and as nice as it was stone cold.
Yeah.
So I'm not happy.
Well, they probably didn't make it today.
Well, I was thinking the potatoes.
That was a leftovers from last year's Christmas dinner.
We had Madeira cake for pudding, though. That was quite nice.
Right. What's that?
It's a plain cake. There was Christmas pudding.
Well, you're not really selling it to me. A plain cake.
like a sponge, like the sponge in the Victoria sandwich.
Yeah, but doesn't Madeira cake have alcohol in it?
No, honestly.
I think it does. Doesn't Madeira cake have alcohol? They're feeding alcohol to children.
And there was a dollop of cold custard on the side.
Yeah.
But the sweet you mentioned is called, and it brought back many happy memories, a gobstopper.
Yeah, the gobstoppers, exactly right, yeah. Gobstoppers, that's how the government gets rid of nuclear waste. They put them in the middle of gobstoppers. Everybody knows that.
Do you remember there was the time when you could, when you brought sweets, they weighed them out for you and put them in a paper bag?
Yeah, and while they were weighing them out, of course, half of the children in the shop were filling their pockets from the shelves, which is why all of those corner newsagents went out of business. Sophie, I'm going to have to go, but thanks for that. So that spaceship thing that's hurtling through space, either towards or away from us, I can't remember which, is... I can't pronounce it, but it is an O for when we get to the O's in the A to Z of 2017, which begins next week. Probably not Friday or Saturday, but on the Sunday. It's Oumuamua. It's about a quarter of a mile long, 260 feet wide, and currently travelling at 196,000 miles an hour. How can they know that? I don't know. Science, probably. It's reported that rather than moving through space like other space rocks, astronomers believe that it is tumbling through the solar system. And most comets follow an ellipse-shaped orbit around the sun, but this comet appears to be orbiting at an angle. It does not circle the sun, which is weird, apparently, according to experts. One of which, an astronomer called Dr. Jason Wright, an associate professor of astronomy and astrophysics at Penn State University, claims that the space rock, Oumuamua, could be an alien spacecraft with broken engines that is tumbling through our solar system.
Oh, no!
Yeah. And Professor Hawking and his colleagues at the organisation called Breakthrough Listen, you know, they've got their ear out to see if they can't hear E.T. They said researchers working on long-distance space transportation have previously suggested that a cigar or needle shape is the most likely architecture for an interstellar spacecraft, since this would minimise friction and damage from interstellar gas and dust. And that is the precise shape that this thing, that's 1/4 of a mile long, is. Another odd thing about it is that Oumuamua is flying very cleanly without emitting the usual cloud of space dust that astronomers observe around asteroids. See, normally when an asteroid flies through space, it has stuff coming out the back of it. Professor Avi Loeb, professor of astronomy at Harvard University, says that we will need to proceed with caution. He says, my recommendation, as in any dialogue, is that we first listen and do our best to understand what we are hearing. Once we figure this out, we can decide how to respond, he said. He says, overall, I'm an optimist. I believe that a very intelligent civilization will be peaceful. What leads into that conclusion? I mean, we're a very intelligent species, a relatively intelligent species. We're really, really dumb. And we're not exactly peaceful, are we? I mean, from a distance, get Bette Midler on the phone. From a distance, the world does look like a peaceful place. In fact, it looks beautiful from a distance, 1,000,000 miles away, and this planet looks absolutely fantastic. It's when you get up near that it shows its true colours. They'll find out when they get here. I can't wait till they ask us to take them to our leader.
You are going to love President Trump.
They won't be able to believe it. They'll be like, no, stop kidding. Who is it really? Anyway, this expert, who is in possession of facts, therefore is not remotely interesting to anyone, he said, this professor of astronomy said, there is the possibility that such a civilization will have hostile intentions and risk our existence. So we should deliberate carefully in any future contact with them. Yeah, how about we could send David Davis? He could remain calm at all times. Anna texts, we peaked. Oh, this is about the human race having peaked. What is the evidence that the human race has peaked? I think that we've peaked. I mean, we haven't actually got brighter lately, have we? Do children today seem brighter than they were when you were young and your knees didn't creak? No. They think they are, because all of their exam results are. It's like when you go into a casino and the one-arm bandit, and it all comes up as cherries all the way along. That's what you get when you take an exam in this country now. You just pull the arm of one-arm bandit and you get straight A's. I don't think you even have to show up for the exam anymore. So they think they're brighter, but they ain't. I think that we peaked as a species. Anna says we peaked a long time ago, and now we're going backwards. We've forgotten that the only thing we need to survive is the Earth, and we are destroying it at the speed of light, whilst focusing on computer games and designer clothes and bags, etc. And beautiful cars, and living in a fake world where social media is the main thing keeping us going. We don't live in a real world. We don't love other human beings or care for other people. Or care for other people enough, she says. We care more about money than anything else. We want the huge house, the huge car, fame, and those who don't are considered weird. priorities, we've become robots, already programmed by advertising, the media, and not being aware of what really matters. Wow. Deep, Anna, and a little bit depressing. Steve says, I think it's time they made a sequel to Idiocracy, as real life appears to have left the original behind. Well, I've mentioned this a lot. If you haven't seen Idiocracy yet, you absolutely, totally, and definitely should do. It used to be a comedy about a dystopian future, in which the human race had peaked around about now and was going backwards. And just imagine what that scenario would do to future humankind. I mean, if we start going backwards now, imagine what the world is going to be like in 100 to 200 years. God, can you imagine who would be leading us then?
I can be more presidential than anybody.
But in that film, it's the President of the United States of America is not too dissimilar to the man that is actually running it now. So it, like I said, it used to be a comedy about the future. Now it's a documentary about the present. Idiocracy. Put it on your to-do list. Paul in Virginia Water says, Saving Private Ryan. Excellent film. Oh, yep, but what's that got to do with this year? This isn't this year. Plus, I don't want to see a lot of people dying. That's not what you want on Christmas Day. You don't want to see death and mayhem and misery. I want to see something exciting. Like I said, like a Mission Impossible, but I've seen them all. Maybe I'll just watch another one, watch one of them again. One where he's outside the building in Dubai, or wherever it is. That one. This says the best film of the year is The Martian, which I know nothing about, but I'll investigate that as well. The thing about David Davis is he might not know much, and he might not be very bright, but at least he's very expensive. Because apart from that jaw-dropping interview that you had with our own Nick Ferrari this week, we also found out how bloomin' expensive he is. David Davis faces a Cabinet Office probe into travel costs after spending tens of thousands of pounds jetting around Europe on RAF planes. His department spent almost £50,000 in less than a year for 11 trips that involved RAF flights to shuttle David Davis to European capitals. £50,000. That's $5,000 a trip to Europe. It doesn't cost that much to go to Europe. One of those trips to Brussels cost £2,500. That was the one that David Davis went to for talks. He flew to at our expense without any work papers. He just thought he'd just saunter over, have a chinwag, little chit-chat, photo opportunity. And he didn't take any papers with him. You saw that picture. Meanwhile, the EU's people were on the other side of the desk, but you couldn't see them because they were buried underneath a mountain of paperwork. They'd done their homework. David Davis showed up and said, oh, the dog ate it. Left it on a bus. But it's worse than that, because not only is David Davis gadding about the place at vast expense, our International Trade Secretary, Leanne Fox, took trips over 3 months that cost us $23,000. In a letter seen by The Independent, Stephen Doughty, MP, asked Cabinet Secretary Sir Jeremy Hayward whether he would investigate David Davis' travel and whether it breached the ministerial code, which demands it to be, and you'll like this next part, the ministerial code demands that MPs' travel be cost-effective. That's just another example of the tremendous sense of humour of our elected representatives. Cost-effective, you say? How much would be a cost-effective method of sending a man who does not have to be very bright to do his job to a place where he can do it? We should send him on a slow coach. It would be cheaper, and the time taken wouldn't faze him because he is famously patient and calm. Stephen Doughty MP said after 7 years of austerity, the British people rightly expect those who govern our country to do everything they can to minimise the cost of their transport to the public purse wherever possible. What about our NHS and the police and the potholes in the road and every other blooming thing? Austerity is for little people. Stephen Doughty MP said, of course David Davis' role requires frequent travel to European capitals, but there is no reason why he couldn't use a cheaper commercial service. He said the public voted for Brexit to save money, not blow it on Air David Davis. Between December last year and September this year, the Brexit Secretary and his team used RAF planes during 11 trips. The most expensive of which was a trip to Brussels, which is so near you could virtually spit that far. He went to Brussels and Madrid and Rome for policy discussions, and it cost us $9,000. How? And it's not like the RAF is ripping us off. We're all playing for the same team. $9,000. And then in July of this year, he flew to Brussels with a couple of officials on what was described at the time as a lightning trip ahead of the second round of Brexit talks. It cost us £2,526 for all three of them to fly. You know what a return trip on the Eurostar is? About £65 each. Like I said, austerity is just for the little people, not leprechauns. That'll be us. Martin emails, we still celebrate royalty, pay footballers millions weekly, vote for idiots, are gripped by Coronation Street and so on, while a small cohort of AI scientists work on our replacements. That is presumably an indication that we have peaked as a species.
Affirmative.
There is alarming robot news, by the way. The advance of AI, artificial intelligence, is continuing apace. In fact, I think it is growing exponentially, which is a long word that I learnt in maths that I have absolutely no idea what it means. But I do know that is what it is doing, growing exponentially. Lewisham, hello, Anthony.
Hello, good evening, Nick Hubbard. How you doing?
I'm great, mate.
Good. I just wanted to show you the good film for this year.
Oh, yes.
It was Dunkirk.
Dunkirk? What, a lot of men getting shot to bits on a beach?
Well, I haven't seen it personally myself, but I heard the ratings were quite good.
Wait a minute. You're recommending it, but you haven't seen it?
Yeah. I've only seen the trailer, and that's it.
Well, first of all, don't watch trailers, because they always put the best scene of the film in the trailer to get you to go and see it, but because they've spoiled it for you, then I never watch trailers, ever.
Or maybe another film you could watch is Milk on Hudson.
Milk on Hudson?
No, Miracle on Hudson. When they had that plane that landed on the water.
Oh, yeah. No, I know how that ends. It lands.
Yeah.
It could be 5 minutes, that film.
Yeah.
No, it's a no from me, but good work. Thanks anyway, Anthony. Better luck next. Steve emails, The Last Jedi, best Star Wars film ever. You must go and see it. Is that the current? I bet my glamorous assistant knows this. Is that the current Star Wars film?
The Last Jedi. That's the latest one, yeah.
Right. Not the first one that they did when
that was The Force Awakens.
Right. Because we had an incident.
Oh, the spoiler.
We had
I remember.
Something of a spoiler alert when that film first came out.
Warning!
Yeah, and it was, well, to be honest, it was a rubbish film, wasn't it? It was just terrible.
I didn't think so.
An awful film. And I knew what was going to happen in the end, so that was it was crushing. I spent about 4 months diligently not reading reviews so that I could go and see the first Star Wars film when they brought it back, which was Episode 1. They started with Episode 4 and then did 5 and 6, and then they came back with 7, 8 and 9, and I think they started again with 1, because that makes sense. I tell you what was good was the one that they slipped in between. I don't know how they're actually justifying this, but it was called
Rogue One.
Rogue One. That was a properly good film, and whoever she was great in it. So yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to go see it before anybody tells me what happened. I did that one. Jenny says, the best film is Ben-Hur. It has spectacle, menace, treachery, butch gladiators in leather gear, romance, and finally redemption. Well, don't tell us. She says, I also salivate at Gladiator and Alexander, also Dances with Wolves. What do you like? Well, I think I'd like never to come over and see a movie with you, Jenny. I don't think I'd match up to your requirements or expectations. Dances with Wolves? That's sticking out like a sore thumb to me. As far as I can recall, there were no leather sandals in... Well, I guess there were. Maybe it's a sandal thing. That's probably what it is. Is it too early to... Oh, I'll do the robot thing, because this is kind of alarming. I mean, I did touch on artificial intelligence. And if it is true that the human race has peaked and we are in regression now, and I firmly suspect that is actually true. I mean, just look around. Do we seem to be getting calmer as a species?
No.
No. We are on the perpetual edge of our seats, ready to be furious about anything. And that's not getting any better. You think that a more intelligent species, or a species that is getting more intelligent over time, would actually be able to rub along together, wouldn't you? I mean, if we think of aliens from space, what we don't think of an advanced race of super intelligent human beings is that they get out of their spaceships to pick a fight in the middle of the of an asteroid belt because one cut the other one up, do we? We assume that they'll be above that, being hyper intelligent beings. But there's every kind of rage that has ever been invented, and quite a few that people haven't even thought of yet, that grips us. And it's getting, unless I'm completely mistaken, it's getting worse. I think it's getting worse by the day. People are afraid to look at anybody else in the eye anymore, lest it trigger some boiling internal rage that will come flooding out in some violent roadside scene. So as soon as robots take over, like particularly driving, I mean, I've mentioned this just many, many times, the moment that steering wheels are permanently removed from inside cars, that moment cannot come fast enough. But we are about to be policed by robots. What could possibly go wrong? If you think that police robots are a thing of the imagination of Hollywood scriptwriters, think again, because we now have robots patrolling for miscreants.
Correct.
The Nightscope K5 security robot was deployed in San Francisco. This is a real thing, and it's just happened. It's a robot in San Francisco that has been deployed to deter homeless people from sleeping and loitering near a building, with great vengeance. I'm not making it up. This is a thing now. And guess which organisation put it there? To deter homeless people from sleeping and loitering near its building. Have a wild stab in the dark at what organisation put it there. You're probably thinking something evil, like a weapons manufacturer or a financial institution. But the organisation that set a robot loose to keep homeless people from sleeping near its building was the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I swear that's true. And the £400 machine is quite large and looks exactly like it just popped out of Star Wars. And it didn't go down well with the hippies of San Francisco. I mean, I could have told them that, but nobody ever listens to me.
Why doesn't anyone listen to me?
Locals got angry instead of getting even, and then they got even. They knocked it over, and they smeared it with feces.
Disgusting.
I'm not making that bit up either. A group doused its sensors with barbecue sauce, knocked it over like R2-D2 in Star Wars, and covered it with a tarpaulin. But it didn't have to be like that. If the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals had spent the same amount that it took to develop a homeless person deterrent droid on a shelter for the homeless, then everyone would have been happy, including the robot which would not have been smeared. This K5 Nightscope security robot is equipped with 4 cameras that monitor its surroundings and moves on wheels at speeds of up to 3 miles an hour. It measures 1.5 metres tall and nearly 1 metre wide at the base, creating a sizable obstacle on the pavement. And you wouldn't want to get run over by one. It's been used in other places other than San Francisco and has been embroiled in controversies everywhere it's been stuck out, including but not limited to knocking a toddler over in Silicon Valley and and falling into a pond in Washington, D.C. after missing a set of stairs. The future is robots, and the robots are drunk. What could possibly go wrong?
Warning! Warning!
It's happening really quickly, and if a robot hasn't impacted your life yet, it will. As I was queuing for the supermarket to buy my groceries, which have all gone up in price, by the way, after we made the EU decision. I don't know if anybody was voting for an increase in prices, but that's what we got. And you wait, and there's undoubtedly somebody in front of you in the queue who wants to exchange a bottle of, I don't know, like a tube of hemorrhoid cream for a bottle of champagne. I made a mistake. You've got to call the manager over, and then you realise that you picked the wrong lane, and the people next to you are going much quicker than you are. In the future, by which I mean tomorrow, none of that will happen. You'll just walk in and walk out with your trolley, and you'll go through a machine that goes boop, and it'll add up the entire amount that you've just taken off the shelves and take it from your bank account, whether you've got the money in there to fund it or not. That's the future, baby. All of those poor people sitting on the conveyor belts that go boop. Learn another skill. Or a skill would be a good idea. I'm trying to plan my Christmas day, which will be next Thursday for me. I always have Christmas before I start the long the seasonal shift thing. I'm doing about 17 shows in a row, something like that. So I have my Christmas beforehand. I want to set up the best film of the year. But it hasn't been a great year for films. Michael Text. Oh, and we're also doing apart from Donald Trump and the advance of artificial intelligence and David Davis, various travails with the EU and the vanishingly unlikely prospect of us having any kind of deal by March of 2019. Mrs. M said that she's working for a more prosperous, strong, and secure country. How's that going, by the way?
Fabulous.
Prosperous? We're all poorer. It's going very badly so far. We're all significantly poorer than we were before. I'm not sure that anybody actually voted for that. As for strong, by what does she mean, strong? But it's strength in what respect? And as for secure, well, I always come back to the playground analogy, and I think that these days, with certain individuals running certain countries, I think that playground is the best analogy I can come up with.
But I have a strong temperament, and it's a very good temperament, and it's a very in control temperament. I have a very strong temperament, but I have a temperament that's totally under control.
Yeah, and on the other hand,
I am the most fabulous whiner. And I'm a whiner, and I keep whining and whining.
Donald Trump is not a nice person.
No, and he's the leader of the playground at the minute. So I think it would be a good idea to be in a gang, as opposed to desperately prostrating ourselves in front of him and hoping to catch him on a good day. Anyway, Michael says the human race has peaked. You only have to look around you. No one wants to help one another. And it's a fact. All people care about these days is money and themselves. Sad yet true. In the 40s, 50s and 60s, people helped each other. These days, they rob each other, says Michael. Huh. Well, there's a danger that you can look at the past through rose-tinted spectacles. And I'm not sure it's true that there used to be no crime in the 40s, 50s and 60s, unless in the late 60s people were just too stoned to be criminals. Yeah, that actually might be true. They didn't, and London, for instance, didn't used to be a safer place 100 years ago. It probably was a more dangerous place. It's just that you didn't hear about it, about the recent deaths in your area, like you do on the 24-hour news services that we have now. But I think that there is a definite case to be made for there's a lack of social cohesion, which is weird because we're in the era of social media. People have never been more connected. It's just that connection seems to have had the opposite effect to that which might have been expected. People aren't getting closer together, they're actually getting further apart. And the anonymity that the internet allows has given forth a tidal wave of ire. I suspect that it was always there. The internet hasn't actually caused this. It's just allowed people to scream their splenetic rage, whereas previously they couldn't do that and reach a lot of people without standing on a street corner and shouting, and they would, for their troubles, probably get a punch up the throat. But you can say anything you blooming well like on the internet, and you just throw it out there, like people throwing excrement against a wall to see what sticks, and apparently all of it does. The exact opposite of spaghetti. Let's have a call in Chelsea. Hello, Lincoln.
Oh, hi Nick, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Love your show.
Oh, thank you.
Laugh all the way home.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thanks a lot.
Good.
So, what's up?
Mudbound.
Mudbound, are you?
Mudbound. I discovered it by chance, watched it last night. Great movie. I don't know whether I'd say it's a Christmas movie, though.
What is it?
Basically, it's about two men that grow up just after the Second World War. One's black, one's white, and kind of the racial issues.
Oh God!
Take place.
No, not at Christmas. Come on, it has to be exciting. And I've got.
Movie.
Yeah, I'm sure it's great. I'll watch it at another point. But that's the one with Mary J. Blige in it, right?
Mary J. Blige, Carey Mulligan. Who else is in there? Jason Clarke does a very good job in that as well.
Right. Mudbound. Okay, well, just the title itself excludes it from Christmas Day, because it sounds anything with the word mud in it's out.
Yeah, maybe. Watch it another time. Maybe not.
I will. Yeah. Leave it with me.
Very sobering.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Lincoln. Cheers, mate. It's a no from me. I have two requirements. One, it has to be exciting, and two, I have to see at least $100 million worth of stuff blow up. That's all. I want them to have spent $100 million on things exploding. I want cars flying, and it can be in space. That is acceptable. But I want to see a vast amount of money on the screen, which sort of excludes British films. That one that we were talking about earlier on, the Golden Circle. What was it called? The Kingsman, Golden Kingsman Circle thing. Because I bet they've spent about £3.50 on that, it being a British film. No, I want to see a huge amount of money spent. For Jesus' birthday. Respectful. Here is Dagenham. Hello, Pat.
Oh, hello.
Pat.
Well, I can't remember. I have seen recent films, but I can't remember what they were. But the one I loved was The English Patient.
Ugh.
Oh, no, you don't like it.
The English Patient? What, I'm going to see a sick person in hospital?
No, it's not like that. It was after the Second World War out in Africa somewhere. And what happened, and it was just a very good film.
Yeah, I'm sure. But how many car chases were there?
But you're too young to understand this one. It was a Crawl Sea.
Noel Coward?
Yeah.
Wow, the amazement in your voice, Sir Pat, that I know that I've actually come up with a single fact.
And also the Dam Busters.
Ah, well, now we're talking.
I go to my daughter in Dulwich and I see a lot of films at a little private cinema, which is lovely, but I can't remember now.
A private cinema?
I've got a rotten cold and it's making me feel a bit crappy.
Woozy.
Eh?
Woozy.
Yeah, a bit woozy.
Woozy, yeah.
Shouldn't have said that other word. Yeah. It's all this Brexit thing, it's got me down.
Oh, Brexit's got you down. Brexit's given her a cold. Can you believe that?
Oh, it's just a load of crap.
It's draining the energy out of you, isn't it, Pat?
Yeah.
You can't stand it anymore, am I right?
Yes, I'm very cross.
Cross?
Because the old MPs, they will actually, any kind of deal we get, they will scupper it.
Now, come on, Pat. Let me take a wild stab in the dark and guess that you read the Daily Mail.
No, I hate it. I won't have it near me.
As I was saying, you seem like the kind of person that wouldn't read the Daily Mail if it were the only thing left on the newsstands.
No, I don't read I can't remember the good paper now, but the good...
Wow. What kind of drugs are you on over there, Pat? You can't even remember the name of the paper you read.
Cocodamol.
Cocodamol, right? I wondered where that was going to go, but it went somewhere else. Cocodamol. Oh well, that's that'll probably send you into a headspin.
Yowza.
Yeah.
It does make you dreamy.
Right.
Must admit.
So what do you do? Pop it? Snort it? What?
No, swallow it. Very, very good. But we'll have to see, won't we? And them lovely ones from Ireland in the government, they're just going to mess everything up as much as they can.
Well, I see. This is another indication that the people just aren't getting along, and they're looking for ways to not get along. Because I think these days, and it didn't used to be like that, I'm pretty sure. These days, everything is either black or white. Now, I'm not talking racially. I just mean it's either 100% yes or 100% no, and nothing is in the middle. And so if somebody disagrees with you or says something that you don't agree with, then they are a traitor. They need to be squashed. We can't even enter into discussions with them. They're evil, and on and on. And I'm sure that the people that are acting on their conscience, MPs and the Southern Irish or the Irish PM, are they're not evil people. They're not trying to thwart Brexit. They just don't think that perhaps they can keep quiet if they have it in mind that the direction that the government is going might not be the best thing for the country.
True. That's true, actually, because we have to have no borders in Ireland.
Apparently, yes. Apparently, we must have no borders, otherwise everyone will start killing each other again. Apparently,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
This is what we're led to believe, which seems like the terrorists have won to me. But what do I know? Oh dear.
Oh, sorry. Just had a bad cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't like Christmas.
What?
And it just gets me down.
Now, is this the Cocodamol talking, or?
I think Cocodamol's talking a bit. Yeah.
What is Cocodamol? It's like heroin, isn't it?
No, it's like.
It's a painkiller.
What would they give you for pain in the hospital when you've got bad pain?
They put you in one of those uncomfortable hospital beds. That usually gives you pain.
That's right. Yeah, it's morphine. I think it's got morphine in it.
And the doctor gave you that for a cold?
No, I got it myself.
Oh.
Me to sleep. Very good to help you sleep if you have a job to get to sleep. And I will sleep tonight, so that's good. But I think that humans will have to zoom off into space because they've messed the planet up completely. I think it was you. No,
oh, yeah, that's right. It's my fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. Yeah, definitely. It's about seed, flowers that weeds and things, and that the bees and the different insects pollinate plants. Well, because they use so many pesticides, they are actually now the pollination is dropped.
Yeah, bee colony collapse.
Yeah, it has, and in the end we'll just starve.
Well, yeah, once we have eliminated all the insects that do all the pollinating for us, they're working like busy bees they do, once that stops, then I think the entirety of our diet will be turnips. I think that's all we'll be left with.
And insects.
Oh, and insects, yeah. I could do with a couple of pints of insects right now, as a matter of fact, Pat.
Hey?
Listen, I'm going to have to go, but try and put the phone down before you crash into a deep, deep sleep. All right?
Yeah.
And put that fag out. Thanks a lot, Pat. At Enfield, hello, John.
Oh, good evening, Nick. A film you want to watch, if you want to, get up to date with things, is called The Wolf of Wall Street.
The Wolf of Wall Street? Well, I'm going to spend 2 hours in the company of bankers on Christmas Day.
Well,
I don't think so.
No, it's absolutely intriguing. There's everything it tells you about all the fiddling that's going on in Wall Street and in the City of London.
Yeah.
All the fiddling that's going on and so on. It'll bring you up to date, and it's actually based on absolute fact.
Yes, I believe that there was.
If you want to be educated a little more, you want to watch that film.
I do not want to be educated. I refuse to learn my lesson.
Well, I appreciate that fact and so on. But the thing is, what you want to do also is to look what's happening to Bitcoin at the moment, the actual market, because they're actually trying to get us onto virtual currency type of thing. They're trying to do away with currency and use it as a top for the very, very rich.
Who's trying to do away with currency?
The super rich of the world. There's about 400 of them.
They're trying to do away with currency?
I'm talking about Bitcoin, which really isn't an actual although the Americans are now recognizing the currency, it is a currency. They're going to actually, use it for hedging the market. And the Bank of England are going to bring in their own coin, currency coin.
I think the Bank of England already have one.
I have a word with Mark Carney.
Oh, yeah, I'll get him on.
And the government, ask him what they're doing about it.
I'll get him on the phone.
We're really interested.
Straight away. I think the Bank of England do have their own currency. I'm pretty sure about that.
Well, they rely on the backup, the American dollar, don't they? It's all dollars. I mean, they're trying to get rid of the Russians and the Chinese are trying to get rid of the dollar.
They're trying to get rid of the dollar?
Yeah, certainly. They want a different reserve currency, different trading. To trade in, instead of trading in dollars, which the petrodollars, they want to go into their currencies.
Yeah, to use as hedges.
Exactly. I mean, don't you ever look in at the Russian program and so on?
No.
They'll bring you up to date on it. They'll bring you absolutely up to date. What's actually happening in this country and in the world?
Russia Today. You're getting your information from Russia Today.
Oh no!
Oh,
everybody does.
Nobody does, John.
They switch in anybody that's got an open mind.
Yeah.
You want to find out who your enemies are. They can be your friends or your enemies, but you want to watch both.
Yeah, definitely not. But you certainly have opened our eyes.
Well, I hope I have a little bit, because some of the programs that come on, there's a lot of rubbish.
Yeah, well, keep doing that research, John. And as soon as you come up with any further facts or information, I want you to let me know straight away. Promise me you'll do that. This show's an education, isn't it?
No.
hedges, you say. You know, there's another great idea, another £1 million idea I didn't have. Bitcoins. I could have bought one for £1 when they first came in, and now I'd be a bazillionaire. Those two tall geeks that were fighting Zuckerman for that Facebook money, I think they put in, what was it, $65 million or $35 million? Anyway, some of the settlement that Zuckerberg gave them for that whole Facebook deal. And now they made they took for $65 million, and now they turned it into $1 billion. So there you are. That's what Donald Trump says. All you need to become a billionaire is to be given $100 million. Rabia tweets, Rogue One was the great. What does that mean? That's utterly meaningless. Rogue One was the great. Should I just excise the word the? Rogue One was great. No, it wasn't. Rogue One, that's the film that was spoiled, right?
That was like the spin-off film?
The spin-off?
That was the one that you liked, that you said was really good.
Like I said, Rogue One was excellent. There's too many of them, I'm getting confused. I'll tell you what, the most confusing thing was that the first one was actually the fourth one. And it was called A New Hope, implying that we knew that there was something bad from a previous experience, that this was a hope we would escape. But nobody knew anything about anything from previous to Star Wars. The first one was called A New Hope. And it was episode 4. I mean, this is the sound of my mind when I start thinking about this stuff. Ugh. Anyway, it said Rogue One was great, technically episode 1. But I don't think that's true. Saw The Last Jedi today. It's up there with A New Hope. And A New Hope was actually episode 4, which was the first one. Does that make sense?
No.
Sophie says, we have peaked and we are in a downward spiral. The downward trajectory started with Trump. That's what Sophie says.
Like to punch him in the face.
Her. Our version of the Big Bang will happen with the probable onset of World War III, brought on by Donald Trump.
I'll bring us into war.
If there's anybody on the planet that will bring us to war, it has to be the screaming Mimi in the White House. Why do I call him a screaming Mimi? Because in World War II, there was a bomb called the Screaming Mimi. Was it the Screaming Mimi? I think it was. And it was awful to hear and massively destructive. And ditto.
You are going to love President Trump.
He's the man that's going to do it. Probably after watching an entire day of cable news television and not hearing a single good word about himself. He'll just flip whatever that thing is on the top of his head and demand the nuclear briefcase, which a senior Republican senator, one of the very senior ones, has said is 70% likely. We have a 70% chance of World War III breaking out shortly. Nothing to be worried about. So I'll get to that in a minute. Assuming that we're still all here in a minute. Harry and Meghan Sparkle have picked a Saturday so that as many people as possible can come out and support them. Well, unless they have some alternative source of income that I am unfamiliar with, I think that we all support them every second of every day. Hey, you're welcome. Pete texts, with every... This is about the human race having peaked. It says, with every advance in technology comes a corresponding decrease in human skills. Well, that's actually correct. says we are enthusiastically becoming so reliant on technology that vast numbers of the human race would die out if it was removed in some way, as very few people retain the skill required to grow and catch food, build and generally survive without it. Yeah, plus do their multiplication tables. 6 6s are 34. That's the sort of thing that once you learn it as a child, you never forget it. But kids aren't learning that anymore. You ask a child what 7 7s are, and they won't have any idea that it's 52. Morons. That's absolutely true. You go into a bar, and you'll say, I'll have 2 pints of lager, please. And despite the fact that they've been pouring that very same stuff all night long, probably for weeks and weeks on end, they have absolutely no idea what 1 pint times 2 is. Not a clue. So they have to go and punch it into their till. And they don't even hit the numbers to add it up. They hit a picture that looks like the thing they've just poured. That's how stupid people are these days. Nobody has any idea how to add up. 9 plus 3 is 14. How can you not know that? You ask kids today and they'll have got no clue. Finding your way home. There's another one. No, if you took people's mobile phones away from them, or their sat-nav devices, we'd all be permanently lost, just wandering around in the days. Where did I leave my home? Where am I? That is completely correct. The second that technology replaces a skill, and knowing where you are is something of a very important skill. Reading a map is another important skill, and that's completely lost. If the internet actually got switched off, which is entirely possible, Vladimir Putin is purportedly working on that very idea. There's so many negative stories about Russia coming out. It's amazing they're sending us their gas. But anyway, if I don't get time to delve into that whole Russia issue today, then I'll do it tomorrow. But there's some alarming stuff coming out about Russia, one of which is they may try and turn our internet off. If the internet was turned off, you could set your watch by it. There'd be riots in the streets after about 10 seconds. Mayor Sadiq Khan will be picking up the phone and asking them to bring out Boris Johnson's Waffensquirter 9000, hose people off the streets. Maria texts, seeing as how the taxpayer will be paying for Harry and Meghan's wedding and honeymoon, the public should be given a bank holiday. Oh, some pipsqueak of a politician said that very thing. Oh, we should get a bank holiday. Ugh. How many times does if workers go on strike, the government instantly comes up with some price that they have cost the economy. If a train drivers union calls a strike, then they have cost us £100 million or £1 billion. Or if we get snowed in and people don't go to up the high street for a day, then it's cost us £35 billion that we'll never get back. A bank holiday? Is it just me, or are we sick of them already? Just me? Tunbridge Wells. Hello, Ty. Ty.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, Ty.
Hello. I think I got my wires crossed a bit, because I thought you'd asked what the best films of the year were so far, and I heard...
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been talking about that and about 86,000 other topics. Yeah.
And someone suggested The English Patient, but I think they were just suggesting films for you to watch on Christmas Day. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's what.
That's just an awful film.
Terrible. The English Patient. Why would anybody want to see anything with the word patient in the title on Christmas Day?
To watch it, isn't it?
No.
No, you need to be patient to watch it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'd need to be sick to watch it. I'd need to be in my sick bed and able to reach the remote to watch that.
I mean, that came out... Didn't Thomas Edison screen that film?
Yeah, I think so. Mm. Isambard Kingdom Brunel showed it as when he opened the tunnel under the Thames. Special dispensation to the first people through.
Oh, God. Suggestions for the best film of the year?
Yes.
Blade Runner.
No. That's not the best film of the year. That's quite possibly the worst film of the year. I hated it. Hated it.
Boring.
Oh, it was so dull. I can't even believe that you would say that. Although you're not alone. So many critics were gushing over that film, saying how fantastic it was, and it was beautiful, and it was deep, and God, it was none of those things. It was just somebody pointing a camera at what's his name? What's his name? Ty?
No, that wasn't his name.
No, that's your name. That is your name, isn't it? I feel like I've stepped into the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I went to see it. I went to see it for the second time on Sunday at the IMAX.
You are out of your mind.
And
well, what's the guy's name in it? Exactly.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Whoever the director was thought, I know, we don't need a story, and we don't need a plot, and we don't need to worry ourselves with a script or anything like that. We'll just point a camera at Ryan Gosling for 2 hours, and he can just stand there and do nothing.
Well, I'm not going to persuade you, am I?
It was awful. And I loved the first Blade Runner. I think that Blade Runner... Well, see, I don't even think they should call it Blade Runner because it sullies the memory of the first one, which is one of the great sci-fi films of all time. But
I think I prefer this one.
Oh, I think that our...
I know I'm not going to persuade you anyway.
Yeah, no, our time together is coming to an end, Ty, unless you can redeem yourself right at the end.
Continue?
Yes.
Just a quick funny story about going to see it on Sunday.
Okay.
I thought I'd sit in the foyer until the film would start, so I wouldn't have to watch all the sort of adverts for insurance companies.
Good
and all
idea.
That sort of stuff. And I went up to the person, collecting the tickets, and I asked, what time will the film start? I think it was meant to start at 8:15. And she said, if you come in at 8:45, the film... So half an hour of trailers and adverts.
Half an hour?
So I was sitting there on my own in the foyer, then the manager came out to me and he said, oh, you're just sitting out here because you don't want to see the Star Wars trailer. You don't want to ruin the film.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's probably one of another reason why I'm sitting out here, because I don't want to see the Star Wars trailer.
Well, whenever on the very, very seldom occasions that I actually do go to the cinema, I always sit there staring at the ground with my fingers in my ears, humming loudly to myself during the course of the trailers of films that it's likely that I might want to see, just because they always spoil it. They always throw great reveals in, or they show the best stunts. And that's because the people who do the trailers aren't the same people as the ones that make the film. They are. It goes out to another company, and they don't care about spoilers. They're not the director or the stars of the film, so they just want to get maximum bums on seats and are judged by their ability to do that. And so they naturally want to show you the best stunts and the biggest surprises. Never watch a trailer, ever, ever, ever.
So just quickly, a film for Christmas Day for you.
Yes.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon? Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Mel Gibson on Jesus' birthday? No. Mel Gibson was on the Graham Norton show, which I do enjoy, apart from the bit at the beginning where he does the topical comedy, which is just flat out not funny at all. All the money that he's being paid to do that show, he's obviously hasn't spent anything on scriptwriters. Zero. They always fall flat in their face. Just get to the sofa. You're really good at it, Graham. Skip the topical comedy. But they had Mel Gibson on that the other day. Did you see him?
I didn't know.
Oh my God! I don't know what species he is now. That was really alarming. It looked like he should be. It looked like he should be in alcohol in a jar on some scientist's shelf. That was really worrying. I don't know what he's on, but I don't want any of it. But it's a no from me. I'm not watching Mel Gibson. Not now. Not ever. Ever. All right. Unless it's the first of those Road Warrior films. Whatever that was called. What was it called?
Mad Max.
Mad Max is exactly right. Yeah, you redeemed yourself right at the end. Okay, excellent work. Thanks a lot, Ty. Let's have a call in Belfast. Lucia.
Good morning, Nick.
Hello, Lucia.
Hiya.
What a lovely name.
My name is Lucia Patrice Bernadette Phoenix.
Wow. Well, I like the Lucia part.
You not like the Phoenix part?
No, it's all good. It's very. There's a hell of a lot of syllables in that name, there, Lucia.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's not many of us Phoenixes, that's for sure.
Yeah, you wouldn't fit all of those words on a business card, would you?
No.
It would have to be continued on reverse.
That's it.
Anyway, what's up, Lucia?
Not a thing. I'm all cozied up in bed. Not too warm.
Yeah.
Was that new Star Wars film shown yesterday or something?
What was it? Did it start yesterday?
There was a movie released yesterday.
Oh, was it yesterday? Because it's normally from Friday, so it was from Thursday, was it?
Right. Well, all of the scenery that was filmed on the north coast of I live on the coast road.
Yeah.
Most of that was all filmed on the most northern part of Northern Ireland.
Oh, right. So how long were they there for?
Oh, quite a few months on and off.
It's amazing how long filming takes. It's as an actor, you'd think you'd get really, really bored because you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you stand up and they put the lights on you and you say one word, and they say it. That's a wrap, and you come back the next day and you say another word. It's excruciating.
I feel sorry for him, but there was quite a few local towns nearby, so they quite anybody that was in it. I'm not into them kind of movies anyway, but any of the actors that were interviewed, I mean, they were quite enjoying the local pubs and the crack.
Yeah.
The crack.
I wish they called it something else, Lucia. The crack. It's just like
disgusting.
I wish there was something else that they could call it. Couldn't you call it something else?
The chat.
What?
Chat. CHAT.
The chats.
Conversation.
Oh, chit chats. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The crack. Another word you could use is the banter.
The banter. Yeah, that's much nicer. Yeah.
Yeah, we just say a bit of crack.
Yeah, I know. Awful.
Well, I lived in England. I lived in England for 30 bloody years, and I heard an awful lot of awful words.
In England? No, I wouldn't think so, Lucia. I've never heard a naughty word in England.
Dream on. Reference the border.
The border between the north and the south.
Yeah. Do you know what that consisted of? You know, like when a train comes and that barrier thing has to lift up.
Yeah.
That was the border.
Yeah, but it was wasn't it operated by men with guns?
No. Well, there might have been a couple of cops on duty.
Yeah.
I mean, our police have always been armed, so that's nothing new.
No.
And then another time, a couple of squaddies, and they just stopped you, and you showed your ID, and away you went.
So, what do you think of this this deal, or this fudge, or this no deal, or whatever the hell it was that they agreed or didn't agree on about the Irish border?
Well, they're as bad as the politicians that over here. They can't agree to disagree. What do I think of the scam, you mean?
The scam. Well, I think that tells us all we need to know.
The same thing as I think about the parasites that are going to be married next May.
Well, as long as you don't say anything controversial.
I just said it. Parasites.
You're underlining that fact from the comfort and security of your bed. I think it's emboldening you, your duvet.
Reference Theresa May, is there any chance she could just emigrate her to Brussels and leave her there?
Right. Fly away. Yeah.
My son lives in Brussels. One of my sons lives in Brussels.
Oh, that must be fascinating for him.
Not really.
No, not really. No, it's a really, really, really boring place, by which I mean dull.
Well, he lives there and works in it.
Right. That's the only reason why you would want to live there, is if you have to.
Well, when we lived in England, he was one of them that would have said anything north of the border's a foreigner. And I used to pull him up on that one. And he said, Mum, I still think that.
Well, now he's surrounded by them.
No, he meant when we were in England. North of Watford.
Well, it's a whole different country up there.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, Lucia, I wish you all the best, and thanks for calling us from your bed.
You're welcome.
All right, cheers, my dear. Pauline emails, there weren't any good films this year, so don't bother trying to find one. It was a bit thin on the ground. There weren't any major spectaculars. I think that Blade Runner was the thing that I was looking forward to the most. I was beside myself excited about it, and I just couldn't believe how dull it was. It was just awful. I mean, there was no story to it. There was no story. There was no script. There was nothing. There wasn't even any action. There was one bit where there was a fight, but other than that, it was just pictures of Ryan Gosling looking dreamily into space. Pauline emails, there weren't any, oh no, I've read that, but there weren't any good films this year, so don't bother to try and find one. I recommend you get on Netflix and binge watch Orange is the New Black. Well, that's the prison thing, isn't it? On Christmas? Come on, people, you're not getting this. I want car chases and explosions, possible space adventure, and £100 million spent, preferably on things that blow up. Is that so much to ask? Like I said, it would be a Mission Impossible or a James Bond, but there weren't either of those things this year. Very disappointing. It was weak. But I think that is partly to do with the fact that there was so much other mind-boggling, eye-shrivelling entertainment going on a thing called the news.
You are going to love President Trump.
I was saying earlier on, I have written a book about it. I'm sort of proofreading it now, and it will be available from an internet near you soon. Let's have Halifax. Hello, Piers.
Good evening, Nick.
Piers.
Sorry, good morning.
Yes.
Excuse me. Talking about the Trump, and that's being polite, Fox have just been bought out by Disney, haven't they?
Well, I think it's a little more complicated than that. Haven't they done a share swap where the Fox Corporation have sold their non-newspaper or non-news interests to Disney, like the 20th Century Fox Movie Studio and Fox
It's a shame
TV.
they haven't sold the news side.
Well, I think that's what... see, that's the thing that started it, isn't it? This whole...
fake news, Fox.
Well, no, I mean, that's the thing that started Murdoch's empire, was news, and that's probably what he is... where his heart is. It's also where the power is. I mean, you don't get governments to change their tack by making a great film, but you can get them to change to bend to your will if you monster them in your newspapers.
That is true. But if they had taken over the news, you know, they could sort of rerun Dumbo for Trump on a sort of continuous reel, so that's what he's watching.
It would fit the current situation if the news was brought to you by Disney. Yes.
Yeah, he could have that, and then he could probably have Snow White.
Yeah.
Fantasia would probably go quite well. Pinocchio, brilliant one.
Oh well, Pinocchio, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that would suit Donald Trump to a T.
And he's a great guy, and he's an honest guy. I'm a person that wants to tell the truth. I'm an honest person.
Yeah, that's his nose growing right there.
If we go really radical with a film for Trump, which would probably be right up its street, Song for the South.
I don't know what that is. What's Song for the South?
It's a Disney film which was filmed in 1946, so it was very politically incorrect
at
the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you were talking about films to watch at Christmas.
Yes.
And you like action and a bit of kick-ass.
Yes.
Would that be right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you seen The Foreigner?
The Foreigner?
With Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan. It's a new film.
Pierce Brosnan and Jackie Chan in the same film.
Yeah,
that doesn't sound right at all.
No, it's brilliant.
The Foreigner.
It really is brilliant. If you get a chance, have a look on YouTube, watch the trailer.
No, I don't watch trailers. I'll have to take your word for it and come back to you with either punishment or praise, depending on.
Well, it's a serious film as well. Jackie Chan isn't playing it for laughs either. So.
Oh, okay.
And it's filmed in London and Ireland. But if you wanted just to chill out with a nice glug of mulled wine on Christmas Day, I suppose there's always Love Actually, but that's probably sent me off the side rail there.
Yeah, I'd rather just turn the TV off and watch that. Love Actually, it's a no from me. Yeah,
it's an entertaining film.
Yeah, no, it's a no. But thanks a lot, Piers. Anything with the word love in the title. I know I'm cutting out a lot of films here. You can't have mud and you can't have love. And what was the other thing? I forget. Anyway, there's it's almost everything that everybody has suggested so far is a big fat no. Talking of television, by the way, and television seems to be a lot better than films these days. I think TV has. Well, I'm not the first person to have said this, but television is certainly having a moment and has been for a good long while. There was a TV show this year that sort of came and went called The Deuce. Did anybody see that? That was great. It was about 1970s New York. And I went to New York in 1978. And I don't know how they've done it, but they have recreated it perfectly. I mean, New York doesn't look like that anymore. So how they've managed to recreate it quite so very well without building gigantic sets. And you wouldn't think that a relatively short TV show would have the money to do that. I don't know how they've done it, but it's absolutely perfect. The Deuce, I thoroughly recommend it. It was on Rupert Murdoch's Sky. But about that, I think it's going to be the biggest media merger of all time, or the second one perhaps after Time Warner. Eventually, and it seems like it's not going to be very far away, actually, we're going to come to the position where everything is that we consume is going to be provided by either one or two companies. It's going to be either a monopoly or a duopoly. Because all these corporations are swallowing each other up. I mean, if you go to the cupboard in your kitchen, assuming that you've got a kitchen, you're fortunate enough to have one, almost everything in your cupboard will have been made by about three companies. Even products that seem to be competing with each other will be made by the same company. And this is true of soap powder as well. They'll spend hundreds of millions of pounds on adverts telling you that our soap powder, or this brand of soap powder, is so much better than the other brand of soap powder. But they're both made by the same company. In fact, they're almost certainly the exact same product. And eventually, as these mergers and acquisitions continue, the one gigantic food company will be swallowed up by another, and before you know it, everything that you put in your mouth will be provided by one organisation, which hopefully has washed its hands. Jane emails, watch The Night Manager. Lots of explosions and eye candy. Hey, somebody just came in. Who was that?
Sorry, I missed that. I was on the phone.
Somebody just came in. Who was that?
No, no one came in.
No, they did. I just turned. I heard a noise and I turned around.
Someone walked past the studio, but no one actually came in.
No, they did. And I turned around and I saw the door closing.
Into your bit?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant to mine.
No. I don't care what happens in your bit. Not remotely interested in what happens in there. In my bit, I just had somebody penetrating my inner sanctum.
Call security.
It was probably security. Anyway, the stuff that happens. Anyway, Jane's emails, watch The Night Manager, lots of explosions and action and eye candy. I saw The Night Manager. That's like years ago that happened. It was good when it started, but it became sort of ridiculous a little while on. After about the second or third episode, I thought, this is silly. The point at which it lost me, really, was when Tom Hollander... I just had to look up his name. Not Tom Hiddleston, he was the main character, the skinny bloke that was the manager. Tom Hollander, who was the short... I hope he will forgive me. Oh, I don't care whether he does or not. He was the short, sort of tubby-ish bloke who was hanging around with Hugh Laurie. He was his supposedly his henchman. And he was described in the script as an international hitman. Yeah, sure he was. He looked more like he would come in to rearrange your flowers than rearrange your face. No, it was a no from me. Jackie emails, a fantastic movie starring Jack Nicholson is called As Good As It Gets. Worth a watch. Yeah, but that's ancient history. That's ages ago. Also, it's isn't that a film about relationships? Ugh. Boring. I don't want to watch a film about relationships. She says also the Star Wars movie filmed in Ireland. They have a photo of an island off the coast of Ireland in space. Wow, you just lost me. An island off the coast of Ireland. You know, an I for the A to Z of 2016 will be the island of Ireland, which is a phrase I never came across until a couple of weeks ago. And I've heard it about 1 million times since, the island of Ireland. Also, Leo Varadkar. For V. There you go. There's a head start. That's one of the more difficult letters. And the A to Z of 2017 will start not next Friday or Saturday, but I think it'll start in earnest on Sunday, and then we'll work through to New Year's Eve. I'm looking forward to it. I look forward to it all year long. Let's have Canuck. Mel. Wait a minute. I've done something wrong. Oh, there he is. Mel.
There we go. All right.
Yes, Mel. Good, thanks.
Yeah. You was on about films, and I was saying perhaps they ought to make a new film, like a Christmas Carol, but a political one, where you can either have Theresa May as Scrooge or Jeremy Corbyn as Scrooge.
I think Jeremy Corbyn would suit the part more physically, if not politically.
But his ghost of Christmas past would be Tony Benn. And I suppose Theresa May's would be Maggie Thatcher, wouldn't it? And like I said, obviously have the now, whether arguing over Brexit, and then the future would be with Jeremy Corbyn in power, the country's bankrupt, we're a third world country, totally skint, and with Theresa May, you'd have 10 million people living on the street.
Actually, the number of people living on the street has just increased dramatically. I've got it was the front page of the Metro today, which I diligently picked up and placed where I could most easily use it in a completely different part of the building. It's somewhere else now, but so that was the headline. The number of homeless people has increased dramatically, probably because of austerity, I bet, or I don't know, maybe it's the EU's fault. Maybe it's my fault.
Yeah, well, I'm sure other callers could sort of add to the story and embellish it a bit.
But I walked by quite a few people who were sleeping on the street to get here this evening, and ordinarily it's like watching deaths, stories of deaths on the news. It doesn't really affect you that much unless you know those people personally, or you've been on holiday to that location, for instance. And ordinarily you walk past people who are sleeping on the streets, and it doesn't really. You see it so much, you can't have an emotional response to it anymore. You sort of become inured to it. But because of the period that we're in, Christmas, you know, you're listening to Classic FM, and we've got Christmas pouring out of it, and you get a little bit sentimental. Pouring out of the radio is Christmas. And it just affected me a bit. I thought, this isn't right. What's happening to the human race?
You don't know which ones are really on the street. That's the problem.
Well, you do. If they're actually sleeping in a bag or a box on the street, they're on the street.
They're sleeping on the street, but some are sort of begging and then going, finishing their day, go around the corner, jumping into their Merc.
Well, yeah, that seems unlikely. I mean, we have heard those stories, and I'm sure that does happen. But I would say that was that does not speak of the majority of the people that are on the streets. And like I said, if they're actually in a sleeping bag, asleep when you walk by, they're sleeping on the streets, and it just doesn't seem right. In the 5th richest country in the world, or so we're told, over and over and over again. So what else have you got for us? Oh, I think that's it. We've dealt with that, haven't we, Mel?
Yes. Well, like I said, it depends. I don't know what the demographics are. I don't know why there's so many now. Is it because they've come from abroad? Are they? I mean, they stopped. You can't rent out now to an illegal immigrant either, can you? So that's got to put some of them on the street.
I think that it's a bit of both. It seems like a perfect storm. Austerity is from having scanned the front page of that newspaper from memory. I'll say that 80,000 families have been put out onto the streets for whatever reason, mostly to do with money, I expect, or a lack of it, more accurately. And then you add that to the number of people who have been persuaded by false information, fake news, that the streets of London are paved with gold, and so they come from somewhere that's significantly poorer, thinking that they're going to make Londoners will welcome them with open arms. You know, because British people are accommodating. And then they get here and they find that they've spent all their money getting to a place that is inhospitable to at best. And I would imagine they just get stuck. Can't afford the way home, can't afford the way away off the street. And the thing that put them there, in my opinion, is the exact same thing that put millionaires and billionaires on yachts and ordering £100 plates of truffle spaghetti in the restaurants. And that thing is luck. That's the only thing that differentiates them from us. People who are sleeping on the streets and may die at the age of 30, 40 years old. Luck. It's all luck. But we like to persuade ourselves that it is not luck. That we are living our fabulous lifestyles, or at least a lifestyle that's better than theirs, because of our innate genius or our hard work, or because we are more intelligent or conscientious and so on. But really, mostly it's luck. And and once we realise that and accept it, then I don't know. It's just possible that we might become nicer people. It's Christmas. What, we should give it a go. You never know. We might like it. Thamesmead, Pashanda.
Hello.
Pashanda.
You all right?
Yes, I'm great, mate.
Good. It's just what you were saying earlier about dumbing down, and I think there's one industry that I've certainly dumbed down maths, which is betting shops, because I enjoy a bet. And I go in, and honestly, half of them, if the computer broke down, they couldn't settle a bet. And it really intrigues me, because you take that computer away and they just wouldn't have a clue. And an example is the other week I had a bet. I had £20 at 11 to 10, and something was wrong with said computer, and there was a huge drama to work this bet out. And there's just it's just so dumbed down. It's press a button, and it's done for them. And I think people, Vic, I think it's probably a bit too insulting, but I do wonder sometimes, because I don't think anybody's got basic intelligence, including me, actually. Because
me too. Common sense. There's nothing common about it. But as for mental arithmetic, that's what you're talking about, isn't it? And
obviously that's your basic maths, but just everything. I just find, and although I fell for this, and I think this is great as a charity shop, I think this is a ploy for every charity shop, because I actually fell for this. I was strolling through Blackheath and I had a long bus journey, and I thought, I'm going to get myself a book. So I went up to the charity shop, and it was books. And it's absolutely true. It's so funny, and I can't believe, but brilliant idea. All outside on the stall. Books, 30p each, 3 for £1. Well, I went in and bought the 3 for the £1, paid 10p more, didn't really want 3 books, got on the bus, and I thought, you silly sod. Obviously it was done on purpose, but I thought it was absolutely fantastic, because I thought they're offloading 3 times as many books and getting an extra 10 pence in the coffers, because I'm so cross with myself, but I thought it was fantastic. So any charity shop, try that with everything, shirts, £5 each, 3 for £12, or something like, well, that's going in our favour, but it's just so funny how and it's happened to me recently, and I was so cross because, again, they had to get a calculator out to work it out. I was in a well-known pub chain, and I bought 6 pints at £3 a pint, and my one, which was £3.50, £21.50. She'd done it all and come back, and she went £24.50. I went, no, it's not. I said, you keyed in an extra pint. I said, you must have done. So she insisted she hadn't. I said, look, I know you're not fiddling me. I said, the money's going in the till. I said, but it's not. I said, it's £21.50. And, there's a huge drama, and she actually had to get a calculator out to add up 6 lots of £3 and 1 lot of £3.50.
That sounds about right. That's my experience in the pub.
It's just horrendous, though, isn't it? There's just and they haven't got the confidence to even kind of, that is so simple, because it was round figures. I can understand if it was £2.71 or £3.5.
Well, I think that, because I used to work in a pub before the till would add everything up for you, and so I would be. Yeah,
my mum and dad had pubs.
Yeah, so I'd be making a round for people of.
She's doing in your head as you go on.
Exactly, for 10 different drinks with mixers and spirits and lagers and lager tops and all this complicated stuff, and you would have to add it up, and you would have to be absolutely spot on the nose, because that group of 10 people would then order the same round, and if it wasn't the same cost, you'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, that's like, because my mum and dad had pubs in the 80s, and that's our bar. That we're back to like what I said in the betting shop. The old-fashioned settlers, which are very few and far between now, they could work out trebles, the lucky 15, lucky 31s. So you go in the average betting shop now. Honestly, if you took the computer away, the industry would fold. And I just am intrigued by it all, because you think they must give them some sort of test, what's £10 at 2 to 1. They couldn't even work out my bet, and I thought, I'm saying to them, you've got to wait, I've got to get them out. I said, crying out loud, I said, it's, 10 or 11 to 10.
Well, so I don't bet, so I really don't know much of what you're talking about. But all right, well, hang on. Wait a minute. So let me just ask you this, in closing. When was the last time?
You're going to show me up there, and
No, it's not a test. When was the last time you won?
What? I win. I'm a little bit of a gambler. I've won a fair bit recently. I'm not too bad. My only advice: there's jockeys that are flying at the moment, and I'm a favourite backer generally, but they only win 33% of the time, roughly. And Doncaster, I think, has got the lowest or the highest of favourites, which is 29%. And just go with your gut, watch for your trainers, and, don't do names, because that very rarely works.
Right. Okay, thanks a lot, Prashanda. I tell you what does work is don't bet in the first place. I think that's probably an excellent idea. You can't lose if you don't put your money down. But I do think that mental arithmetic is a skill, and you can get better at it in much the same way as you can get better at knitting, for instance, or bricklaying. It is a skill. It's almost like a channel imagine your mind is a field of wheat. Groovy. And you walk down a certain path, using it in a certain way, and that path becomes wider and more easy to traverse. So I think if you That was my experience, because when the first job that I had in a pub, it was madly busy, and I'd never done it before. And also, I had no experience of using of doing mental arithmetic, because it wasn't necessary. I hadn't actually needed it to add up a lot of numbers in in short order while doing something else at the time. It became a bit overwhelming, and so I just started making it up. I would create a round of drinks and just estimate what I think it should have cost, and put that money in the till. But after a while, it's a skill, and you do learn it. It's a skill that I've completely forgotten, so don't test me. But I do know that 6 8s are 32. That has, I've retained that information.
Affirmative.
But because people don't use that, and because they got tills that added up for them, they don't need to do it. So that skill has died off. People can't do it anymore because they don't need to do it, because they've got the machine that goes boop to do it for them. An important call in Bloomsbury. Hello, Sophia.
Good evening, Nick Abbott. Why do you always make your multiplication come out wrong?
I don't think so.
6 8s are 48. Anyway, I must say my mental arithmetic has improved. It's definitely something that comes to you when you need it.
Well, it comes to you. It comes to you when you practice. That's all it is. It's just practice.
Yes, it is absolutely.
Yeah.
Must be the psychology. Like you, I've got an honors psychology degree.
Mm-hmm.
So
completely useless. Am I right? Yes.
No, you're just not aware that you are using it, but it's very subtle. And I think it's really subtle in my novel Nuclear Man, because it's really about a straightforward science fantasy. It's not meant to be about disasters happening, but
wait a minute. Hang on a minute. Are you talking about a novel you're reading, or one that you've written?
No. I wrote the one I wrote.
Oh, this is an advert.
No, it's not. Other people make adverts all the time. You know that quite well. But you did say you wanted something talking about the outbreak of World War III, because it's 70% chance. Yeah. And my novel Nuclear Man by Sophia Snape on Amazon, would make good reading at Christmas time. It's
well, I'll tell you what, Sophia. I'll wait till the film comes out, because reading is very bad. Is very bad for your eyes, and that's a medical fact.
No, mine are terrible. Mine are even worse. But we keep trying to get a film. I would love to get it filmed.
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to film part of it, and I wanted to. Then I showed it to the barman, and he said, "Get the whole thing filmed while you're at it." So I said, "Okay, that's fine."
Wait a minute. You're getting career advice from a barman?
Indeed, yes. Well, he was 7 foot tall, which is a lot taller than me. And
is height an issue in in career advice?
No,
does it get better depending on how high the person was when you were speaking? And by high, I don't mean
want to score some pop?
Not that kind of high.
No, he wasn't. No, he was a lovely person, and he received the novel because we knew the manager, and he was still working at 76, and he had to retire, but he took it for him, and I was just talking to him because I used to go to this pub there.
Okay.
And
precious little of this is making any sense, Sophia.
Yeah, it's all making sense.
Not really.
But you wanted to know something blew up in it. There is something that blew up in this novel, Nuclear Man.
Okay, well, like I say, if it's a book, then it's a no from me. I've written more books than I've read these last few years. Isn't that terrible? And I've only written one a year. But anyway, thanks a lot, Sophia. Good effort. Better luck next time. But about World War III, I'll do this now or later? Later being tomorrow. Hang on a minute. I'll just read out this. This says, Liz emails, so some years old now, but the best thing I've ever seen on TV is probably 6 Feet Under. I watched all 63 episodes over Christmas and New Year a couple of years ago, and it's one of the best Christmases I've had. Amazing show. Yeah, it was okay. I preferred him in Dexter. I tell you what, 6 Feet Under had the best last episode, or one of the best, maybe the second best last episode of any TV program I've ever seen. It was superb, the last episode of 6 Feet Under. I won't tell you about it if you haven't seen it, but it was very, very good. I think for me, and this is a controversial thing too, I'm going to say something controversial now.
Oh no!
For me, the best last episode of any television program was probably the most controversial last episode of any TV program. In fact, the man behind it left the country because he didn't want any of the fury and the blowback to affect him personally. So he dropped the last episode and then left the country to go and hide in case people wanted to extract some vengeance on him. But I thought it was absolutely superb, and it was and it was good though, because for me it was the best TV program of all time. And I am talking about The Sopranos.
Absolutely.
Obviously. That last episode was brilliant. It's one of my favourite songs of all time as well. Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
Rock and roll!
Which was, of course, then utterly ruined, desecrated by those singing kids off the telly, whatever that show was. What was that show? The singing kids off the telly, those excruciating kids off the singing TV show, whatever they were. Anyway, they did. Fortunately, they didn't do Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'. Otherwise, I'd have been furious. This says, if you're a fan of Daniel Day-Lewis, fan? Can you be a fan of Daniel Day-Lewis? You will. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect. It's just that he doesn't seem like a person that you could be a fan of. You know, I'm sure he does good work, but is anybody a fan? Standing outside his house going, "Oh, Daniel, you're so fantastic." No, I mean, I respect his ability, but I'm not a fan. Anyway, if you're a fan of Daniel Day-Lewis, you will enjoy the film There Will Be Blood. It's a must-see, one-off, brilliant flick. I think that's the isn't that the thing with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he's a gangster of some sort, or is that Gangs of New York? Isn't it about oil? Isn't he a deeply unpleasant character? I don't want to be surrounded by deeply unpleasant characters on Jesus' birthday. No, I want something uplifting and exciting with a happy ending. That starts probably with, I don't know, a clock ticking, something like that. And, the hero of the day has to wrestle the maiden away from danger just in the nick of time. And in between the start and the end, £100 million worth of stuff blows up. That's not asking too much, is it? Maybe I'll just have to watch, it's probably going to come down to I'll watch Terminator 2 again.
Correct.
When in doubt, Terminator 2.
Affirmative.
You can't go wrong with that. Oh, I've run out of time. I can't tell you about World War III now. Apparently there's a 70% chance that we're about to have a nuclear war. And this is one of the most senior Republicans in America is saying this. A person who you will be familiar with. 70% chance, which sounds like a 6 out of 10 chance to me, more or less. So I'll get into that tomorrow, assuming that there is a tomorrow, or rather a later today at 10 p.m. when I return. Now,